Welcome to Dog Facts Funny. Before we talk about meaning, belief, or explanation, let's simply notice something together. Dogs rarely arrive in our lives during perfectly settled moments. They seem to appear when something is shifting, when a chapter is ending, when silence feels heavier than usual, or when routine no longer holds us the way it once did. At the time, it doesn't feel symbolic. It feels ordinary, almost accidental. This video isn't asking you to believe anything new. It's asking you to observe a pattern many people only recognize later. How the presence of a dog often brings grounding, not through answers or instruction, but through steady companionship. What that timing means is open to interpretation. What it does to us is not. Why dogs affect the human nervous system? A dog's presence directly influences the human nervous system. Studies in behavioral science show that proximity to a calm dog lowers cortisol levels and increases oxytocin, the hormone associated with bonding and emotional safety. This isn't symbolic, it's biological. Unlike humans, dogs don't demand emotional performance. They don't require explanation, consistency, or emotional clarity. This absence of pressure allows the nervous system to downshift naturally, especially in people who live under constant cognitive or emotional strain. Over time, the brain begins to associate the dog with safety, predictability, and relief. This association forms without conscious effort, which is why it feels deep, immediate, and difficult to replace. Why dogs teach without instruction? Dogs don't correct behavior through punishment. They respond to energy, consistency, and emotional tone. When something feels unsafe, they withdraw. When it feels secure, they engage. This feedback loop teaches humans more than it teaches dogs. Living with a dog gradually reshapes how a person moves, speaks, and reacts. People become more aware of tone, posture, and emotional leakage. Not because they're trying to improve, but because the dog responds immediately and honestly. This creates a subtle form of emotional accountability. Not moral, not religious, just real. Fear never builds connection, in dogs or people. Yelling, hitting, or intimidating a dog doesn't create understanding. It creates avoidance. Behavioral research shows that fear-based methods suppress behavior temporarily, but increase anxiety, vigilance, and emotional distance over time. From the dog's perspective, punishment feels unpredictable. They don't link it to long-term rules. They link it to the person delivering it. Trust erodes quietly, often mistaken for obedience. This mirrors human relationships more than we like to admit. Fear controls behavior, but it never builds safety. Dogs simply make this truth visible. Unconditional presence is not blind love. A dog's loyalty isn't ignorance. It's selective tolerance built on emotional attunement. Dogs notice inconsistency, tension, and emotional withdrawal immediately. They just don't retaliate. Instead, they adjust. They wait. They stay close without pressure. This kind of presence changes people because it removes the need to perform worthiness. Over time, many people soften, not because they were taught to, but because safety allows it. Whether someone calls that timing coincidence, instinct, or something greater doesn't change the effect. The presence still alters behavior, perception, and emotional regulation in measurable ways. Why different dogs fit different people? No two dogs express connection the same way. Some are watchful and distant. Others are physically close and emotionally expressive. These differences often align with the emotional needs of their humans, whether consciously chosen or not. An anxious person often bonds with a grounding dog. A withdrawn person often bonds with a socially engaging one. These pairings don't require intention. They emerge through mutual regulation. This isn't destiny. It's compatibility shaped by nervous systems learning each other. Why humans have always noticed this bond? Long before modern psychology, humans recognized that dogs occupy a unique emotional role. They weren't worshipped, but they weren't dismissed either. They were trusted as guardians, companions, and silent witnesses. Across cultures, dogs appear in stories about protection, transition, and loyalty not because people were romantic, but because the pattern repeated often enough to be remembered. Dogs stayed when others couldn't. They remained present without language. They noticed what humans try to hide. Healing doesn't always look like recovery. Dogs don't cure trauma, depression, or grief, but they stabilize the environment in which healing becomes possible. Therapy research shows that dogs help regulate breathing, interrupt panic cycles, and anchor attention during dissociation. This works because dogs respond to physiological signals, not narratives. They notice heart rate, muscle tension, and breathing changes, often before the person does. Healing begins when the body feels safe. Dogs help create that state without explanation. Routine, purpose, and continuity. Dogs don't usually enter our lives during calm, stable chapters. They arrive during transitions, after loss, before change, during loneliness, or at moments when routine has quietly collapsed. Many people notice this pattern only in hindsight, not because it was dramatic, but because it felt natural at the time. This timing doesn't require belief to be meaningful. It only requires observation. Across cultures and generations, humans have noticed that dogs often appear when emotional structure is needed. Not explanation, not advice, but grounding. For many people, dogs restore daily structure. Not rigid schedules, but gentle continuity. Walking, feeding, noticing another being's needs. These actions anchor time when motivation is low. This is especially visible in older adults and people experiencing isolation. Dogs don't fill emotional voids. They prevent emotional collapse by keeping life moving forward in small, manageable ways. Purpose doesn't always arrive as meaning. Sometimes it arrives as responsibility. Why loss feels so heavy? When a dog leaves, the grief often surprises people. Not because the bond was misunderstood, but because it was deeply embodied. Dogs are present in routines, silence, and physical space. Their absence disrupts more than memory. The grief isn't exaggerated. It's proportional to the regulation, safety, and companionship that quietly existed every day. Dogs don't just accompany life. They shape it. No belief required. You don't have to believe a dog was sent to understand their impact. You only have to notice what changed after they arrived. If life became quieter, steadier, or more emotionally honest, that matters. If you learn patience, consistency, or gentler communication, that matters too. Dogs don't explain why they're here. They just stay, and somehow that's enough. If this way of noticing resonates with you, consider subscribing. Not to be alerted, not to be persuaded, but to quietly become part of a growing community that values observation, emotional awareness, and the unseen bonds we share with dogs. This space exists to slow things down, to explore patterns we often miss, and to let understanding form naturally over time. Your presence, even in silence, helps that community continue.